This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Hey, you probably listened to the last episode of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels under protest.
Greetings, Scoundrels. This is Scott Murray from the Assembly of Geeks podcast network. You're listening to Dennis, Darth Taxus, and Jay on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Scoundrels, we're on the road to Solo. In this series, we explore various characters and elements related to everyone's favorite smuggler from a long time ago in that galaxy far, far away. Joining us for this discussion is Scott Murray from the Assembly Geeks podcast network. What is it that you think about with Lando?
Well, first of all, it was inspired casting.
Yeah.
You know, there couldn't have been anybody cooler on the planet to play Lando than Billy D.
Hello, what have we here?
All right, Scoundrels. Well, we have a very special surprise treat for you. And since this is our 50th episode, we're doing a little bit of a tribute to our favorite golden boy, C-3PO. And so I put together a little trivia game.
Jay, break it down for us real quick.
Now it's time for a breakdown.
All right, Dennis, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Which of 3PO's legs is featured as silver? You got a 50-50 shot. Yep, it's the right. Ding, 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 ding. All right, so Taxus, this is an easy one. It's your turn. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Who orders... No, stop. You're such a bad sport.
Whatever.
Who orders 3PO's mind wiped at the end of Revenge of the Sith?
Captain Tilly. No. Bail Organa.
Yes.
Sounded like Rick.
Scott, according to the dialogue in The Last Jedi, in how many forms of communication is 3PO now fluent?
I'm just going to say 7 million.
Yup.
Oh, wow.
That's it. All right, Taxus, back to you.
Yes.
You're going to hate me for this. How many pieces make up the costume Anthony Daniels donned as 3PO in The Force Awakens? I'll give you a hint. It's less than 20, but more than 15.
I'm going to say 17.
19. Sorry.
Oh, well. Is the cod piece one piece or two?
Don't look now, but some of your favorite scoundrels, yeah, that's us, are back with another episode. Here's what is in store for this week's show. An executive producer has been named for a Star Wars live-action television show. We'll discuss this and more in this week's news. Convention season is in full swing. If you are looking for Star Wars celebrities, then don't hit skip, because Taxus will tell you which cons they are appearing at in April in another edition of Skystalking. The road to Solo continues as we get closer to the next Star Wars story. We're talking Bryan Daley's Han Solo's Revenge in this week's Hypothetical. Make sure to stick around for the results of our latest listener Twitter poll and Silence Fools. There's your rundown, Scoundrels. Thanks for joining us for episode 51 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Let's see. Carefully add the elixir of distilled tears of one who missed Star Wars Celebration. Carefully folding into the batter mix of inattentive parents at a department store.
What are you up to now?
Just cooking something up.
Ooh, is it cookies? Maybe a cake?
Nope. It's something even sweeter. It's revenge!
Why do I even still get my hopes up?
With my special down-home extra thick revenge sauce.
It looks like you're making a big batch.
Oh, I'm setting a large table for lots of deservingly hungry people.
Really? Like who?
No, don't ask him that.
Oh, it's a reasonably short list. Let's see. Where to start?
Too late.
Auditors, taxpayers, a few government officials, pretty much every rebel or resistor, be they organic or electronic, diet ice cream, the color saccharoline, my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Foster, diet pizza, the writer's strike about 7, the episodes of Lost written during the writer's strike about 7, the deleted Phasma scene, people in general, Schlotsky's, even though I still eat there, dogs and purses, bad chicken fried steak, my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Foster, no relation, elevator clowns, Dennis,
What?
the 94 to 95 season of
What did
Saturday
I
Night
do?
Live, It Happens in the Future, Dennis, people named Vanger, space animals, Nixon's frenemies list, Houston drivers, the future podcasting injury that'll force me into retirement, Delaware, you know what you did, the know-it-all stone that held Excalibur, 1/3 of people named Eric, my roommate who left an empty milk jug along with the kid who bought the last donut, so having no milk was inconsequential, but they're both still on the list, packaging plastic wires, the Girl Scouts of North Dallas County, Iowa, and Southeast West Bengal, India, a few ex-girlfriends and theirs, Michael Bay, very small rocks.
That's a huge list.
Oh, I'm not even done.
Yes, you are.
The prophecy is fulfilled! Obsessively, unforgivingly happy greetings, sweet scoundrels. Welcome back to the podcast that dredges up emotional scars from your childhood. I'm your co-host who's top on your list, Taxus, coming to you from the mental health center of my flagship, the Assessor Collector. And with me are my co-hosts who point to me when asked what causes the most pain. Dennis, the Phantom Menace, Keithley, and Jay, the Hut Jair Krebs. Dennis and Jay.
Well, hello there, guys. Here we're back for another edition of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Can't wait to jump in.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun show tonight, and we get to a lot of great news to discuss, and then we have our Han Solo's Revenge discussion as well, so that'll be fun. But Jay, I know you and I were both doing the Disney Star Wars virtual half marathon. I'll be frank, I'm not in condition to run an entire half marathon at once, so I've been doing mine in bits and pieces here and there. How's it been going for you?
Same with me. I think I got the whole half marathon in. I've probably run like 3 of them by now. I'm sure you have too, but not all at once. That is one of my bucket list things, though, is to try to run a full half marathon at once. But I don't know if that will ever happen. So looking for those medals soon, though, hopefully, right?
Yeah. The completion time for this is at March, but I mean, it's really between you and the road because Disney's not asking you to verify that you actually ran anything. And I pretty much knocked this out by going to the gym at lunch and running a couple miles here and there. And I tried to get a 5K in during one race during the week. And I got this signed up for this real early in the after it was announced and had plenty of time to get it done. But, Scoundrels, if you did this, if you got a chance to take advantage of it, I'd love to hear how you all done it, especially if some of you have done other of the Disney's Star Wars races. I know the ones out in Disneyland didn't happen this year because of the need to close down some space for the development of Galaxy's Edge. But they still were doing them down at Disney World. So I'd love to hear a bit about that.
So would I. And take pictures too. Post them on Instagram, post them on Twitter, tag us in them. But yeah, I'm really glad that they did the virtual because, I don't know if I'll ever get to go to Disney. And so this is a great way to still be involved and, still have fun with it.
Hey, Taxus here. And speaking on behalf of the Scoundrels, I'd like to point out that everybody's assuming that I did not take part in this.
And are you going to tell them they're wrong?
Oh, no. I mean, they're virtually right, but I did virtually avoid every single thing. In fact, I didn't even know it existed until just now.
Okay.
But I did do something Star Wars.
What did you do?
Well, there I was at Friday night sitting aboard the Assessor Collector, and all of a sudden the Lady Taxus stormed in. So she said, "Hey, I heard the Last Jedi's out." And I said, "Huh?" She said, "Yeah, would you like to watch it?" I love you. So she fired it up, and I have to say that she greatly enjoyed the movie. And so I'm just saying, hey, Star Wars, mission accomplished, because if you could make the Lady Taxus happy, then good job. Also, this was the day after the Assessor Collector almost burned down from a wildfire. We barely escaped that.
That sounds like quite the breakthrough in your relationship. So yeah. I am happy for you, happy for her, and why don't we head on over to the news? Well, as is usual in the podcasting world, once a podcast is recorded, all kinds of interesting news break right after an otherwise slow news week. So let's get caught up. Jay, what is up first?
Yeah, why does that always seem to happen? Okay, here we go. There are Star Wars live action television developments to report. It was recently announced on StarWars.com that Jon Favreau has signed on to executive produce and write a live action Star Wars series for Disney's new direct-to-consumer platform. The announcement noted that Favreau is not a stranger to Star Wars, as he has had roles in both The Clone Wars and Solo, a Star Wars story. So yeah, he was okay. Who was he in Clone Wars? It's eluding me right now.
Monica's boyfriend.
That's Friends.
Was he Pre-Vizsla?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was really happy about this. And of course, as soon as the news broke, you had people zoom both ends of the spectrum, right?
Oh yeah, that's typical for Star Wars. I'm thrilled with this as well. He was the director so he's got experience with Disney. He was the director for Iron Man and Iron Man 2. Mm-hmm. He put out the Jungle Book movie from, was that last year or the year before? Can't remember which. And he's currently producing the live action Lion King movie. Okay. Iron Man is widely regarded as a really good movie. It's a great movie. It's pretty much is responsible for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we have now. Iron Man 2 gets much more mixed results.
Which I loved, I must say.
I did too. I thought that was a fantastic movie. But, people do have their complaints, whatever. The Jungle Book was fantastic. That was a wonderful adaptation. Very different than the animated version of the book as well. So I think this is a great development. I think he puts out good stories. I think he develops good movies. I'm anxious to see what he's going to do, with the live action Star Wars series. Yeah,
I think that given his obvious credentials, especially like you said, Dennis, with Iron Man. I mean, let's face it, he was first to swing the hammer for that, and I really think that Marvel owes all the success they've had to that man.
Wow.
To be honest with you. No, seriously. I mean, let's face it. Iron Man, on an episode of Geek Supreme, we talked about that. The only reason why Marvel picked Iron Man first was because it tested well among children because they were looking for a toy to make. Right?
Right.
And so they hired the right guy to take that story, and he happened to, I'm not sure who made the decision to go with, what's his name? I always want to say Ed Begley Jr.
Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah, juniors confuse me. They look alike to me. Robert Downey Jr. And I mean, it's just lightning in a bottle. Plus, he inserted himself in the movie. Let's face it, everybody loves him as Happy, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the guy is genius. He took something that probably to a lot of the great unwashed out there, in non-comic book land, would think, Iron who? You know what I mean? Now they know Spider-Man or Spider-Man, right? They know the Hulk. They know all those guys. But, let's face it, that was kind of a fringe character to bring into a movie. You know what I mean? And he did it so...
Well, I quibble with the word fringe.
Well, no, I'm talking about the great unwashed. I'm talking about, like, if you walked up to, for example, my wife and said, hey, there's a movie about Iron Man back before Iron Man became a thing, she'd be like, I think I heard of him. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I feel great because of that. I feel completely trusting about this guy helming a Star Wars series. And I really look forward to it. And I dare you to challenge me that I don't.
I wasn't going to. Wouldn't dream of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, of course, we don't have any details on what this is yet, but I'm eager to see what's going on. So I think we're all in agreement on that. What else is going on in the news, Taxus?
Well, Star Wars Battlefront 2 has seen some changes. An update was released on March 21st that changes the way that players level their characters. In addition, microtransactions have returned. However, under the new system, microtransactions only provide cosmetic changes to the game and do not provide a method for characters to level up, thus removing my ability to even get ahead in the game because of my personal standing and wealth that I've accumulated through my life.
Well, okay, hold on for a second. First of all, the transactions have been gone for a while, and they were only available for a limited amount of time to level your characters. The bigger problem that Battlefront 2 is facing is when they first released the game, and it was in its beta phases, the costs to unlock characters were obscenely high. Right. And you could get right past that with these microtransactions, which made a real imbalance in the game. You either were going through a crazy insane grind, or you're just forking additional dollars over after you'd already plunked down $60, $70 on this game.
People were forked, all right.
Yeah, but then they switched over to this bit where they took out the microtransactions, and you were just using exclusively the in-game currency plus certain time-based rewards for this. The only issue with that is you had very little control over what you're actually advancing.
Okay.
If you wanted to improve your Luke Skywalker character in the game, you had to hope when you bought that hero box, it was going to give you something for Luke and not Darth Vader or Darth Maul or Princess Leia or Han Solo or something like that. It was, there's a big random element to it. Now you can also use some other pieces that you collect to specifically upgrade some things, but not always necessarily the way you wanted to do it. So progress was very frustratingly slow in that game.
Okay, so that's a point.
Yeah.
My son, of course, plays Battlefront 2. And the way he explained it to me is that it's a patch, from what I understand, for just fixing certain things. But then there's also new skins that you can also acquire. And my understanding as well is that there is a Cloud City playable area
cool.
now.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is a Leia and Cloud City outfit, and then there's a few different skins. So yeah. So once you download the patch, then you get a chance to do all that playable stuff.
Yeah, I simply haven't had an opportunity to log on because at the time we're recording this, it's been, I think, less than 24 hours. It's been available or something about that. So I'm looking forward to diving into that this weekend, which will be before this episode is released. But
I might log in when we're done. Just check it
really.
out.
All right. All right. Well, in other news, as we discussed on episode 50, Lucasfilm and Star Wars walked away empty-handed from the Oscars after The Last Jedi failed to win any of the 4 awards for which it was nominated. However, that didn't stop it from winning big at the Rakuten TV Empire Awards, and I hope I pronounced that first word right. I don't know, but
you're doing
The
good.
Last Jedi. Yeah, well, it just used to be the Empire Awards. But anyways, The Last Jedi won for Best Film, Best Visual Effects, and Best Costumes. Ryan Johnson won for Best Director, and Daisy Ridley won for Best Actress. In addition, Mark Hamill received the Empire's Icon Award, which is kind of ironic. The Empire, but
iconic and ironic.
It's true.
Yeah, so so this was cool because this is it's the readers of Empire magazine that pick these winners. So it's a fan-based award system, which is very cool.
Yeah.
It was also cool. This is a respected award. I mean, Mark Hamill showed up. Daisy Ridley was there. A lot of they have the nominees typically do show up for this thing. And I saw pictures. Daisy looked very nice in her tuxedo. I'm not sure exactly what you call that. But
it was a very nice pantsuit.
Yeah, but a pants tuxedo. But yeah, it was good to see The Last Jedi get a little bit of recognition there, even if it was for the fans. And I know Mark Hamill made a remark that he was very pleased with this award because he considers himself a fan of science fiction and fantasy and things as well. So he's one of us in that regard, and to get this type of recognition is extra special for that reason.
Well, and as we said, with the Oscars too, is that, yes, it's nice to be recognized, but realistically, when it comes down to it, it's the types of awards like this one that I really feel mean a little bit more, perhaps, just because of the fact that it's more encompassing of what the genre really is. And so I think it's just a better reflection of the quality. And also, just the nod to everything. I'm so glad that it got Best Costumes. That made me so happy because I've always said that the costume design of Star Wars from the prequels on, even in the OT, it's been way ahead of its time, and it's just great to see it getting some recognition. So I was tickled.
Yeah, I've always said, and I've gone on record, and again, I would challenge anybody to challenge me on this. Go back and listen to the tape. Why
are you being so challenging tonight?
I don't know. I'm challenged.
The fire nearly burned down the assessor collector, so what do you want?
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
It left its mark.
I feel a little challenged, too.
But, I've always said that the Rakuten Empire Awards are the Golden Globe of Oscars of the People's Choice of Star Wars Empire Awards. So I am really happy that this happened. Just saying.
Well said. Who can disagree with that? Jay, you have a fun story coming up. What is next?
I do. Who says Kylo Ren can't be adorable? Side note, I always thought he was adorable. Anyway, on March 6th, a white tiger cub was born at the InSync Exotics Wildlife Rescue in Wiley, Texas, which is northeast of Dallas. So that's pretty close to you guys. So what is the Kylo Ren connection? This little tiny tiger was named after the son of Han and Leia. The tiger was born in the sanctuary after his parents, Zara and Assad, were seized from parents that were keeping him illegally. Dun, dun, dun. So currently, little Kylo Ren is receiving around-the-clock care from the sanctuary staff, and he is so adorable. So I just really liked that story.
So in reality, I actually have visited this facility before, and I went during the Christmas party a few years back. And it's really awesome because the big cats there, they understand that the party's happening, and they know they're all about to get toys that people have donated to them. And it's wonderful to watch the staff go around, and the big cats see that the staff's there, they know who they are, and they see them pull out the toys, and the excitement in their eyes. And when they throw the toys into the pens, which, by the way, it's not like some cramped space. These things are huge. They're so big, and all through donations and goodness of the hearts of people that want to see these big cats that would have trouble living in captivity.
So let me ask you a question because I haven't had a chance to get out there yet. And I'm going to steal your thunder on this bit of shtick. I'm assuming this has nothing to do with the 90s pop boy band, the InSync Exotics Wildlife Rescue. How does this get its name?
Well, the reason I showed up there is because I thought it was a gentleman's club at first, Dennis. And but when I didn't hear music going on, I knew something was up.
For big cats or...
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, they have anything ranging from the size of, I thought they had a couple of ocelots there, and they had some cheetah. They have some mountain lions, which will get your attention. And and I have to say that when I was there, one of the tigers kind of took a notice of me and lunged at me. It was a white tiger, in fact, and that'll get your attention because when their roars are, you feel the percussion against your body when they roar, But it's a wonderful facility. It's awesome. And in fact, if anybody remembers, there was that tiger cub that was found on the Texas border trying to be smuggled across the border. And I think it was with a bunch of drugs or something. And so they named it Smuggler. And so they got him. They took care of him. They were able to heal him. And they put him in with another cub, a girl. About his age and everything, and last I saw them, they were just having a good old time together. So, I mean, it's worth your time to go visit it. It's in Wiley, Texas. It's kind of out in the backwoods a little bit, but that's probably okay because you don't want that in the middle of town. And it's great. It's a wonderful experience.
Yep, and if you want to help them out, you can go to www.insyncexotics.org, and they have a Donate Now button up in the corner if you want to help support little Kylo Ren or any of the other big cats that they have there.
That's great.
I wonder if they accept squeaky toys or anything like that. I want to go to Petco and buy him a little lightsaber toy and send it.
Okay.
Seriously, I
so
would send
in all seriousness,
of all of us.
If you want to send them something, believe it or not, the cats love trash bags full of leaves and cinnamon. It sounds silly, but they love the stuff.
Wants to get them a lightsaber, though. So.
I don't know if they... Yeah. That's probably in my nightmare, seeing a tiger with a lightsaber coming at
me. Exactly. All right, Taxus, what else is going on?
Well, Dave Filoni hinted that the announcement of the next Star Wars animated series might not be far off. Speaking with Animation Magazine about the Clone Wars and Rebels, Filoni noted that we have a lot of different ways to convey stories, and we choose the best mediums, and we are showing no sign of slowing. So the end of one thing always means the beginning of another. And soon, people will learn what that other is. I added that dramatic element to the end because, it just sounds intimidating. Yeah, so great. I mean, we kind of suspected something was in the works a few episodes ago when we saw on LinkedIn that they had announced that they were looking for, like a animation producer, something like that. So I have to say that I imagine that he, we talked about this at the end of Rebels, that he's probably already had the end game / beginning game in mind for the next series. So do you think that they had this he's had this in the works in his head for a few years, or a couple of years at least?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, always in motion, the future is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's always got to have something in his back pocket. And why not? I mean, he's such a creative genius that I can't imagine that he's not always thinking of something else to do with his creativity. So yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, he's been playing cagey with this, though, because right after Rebels was out and it was done, I can't remember where I saw the comment. Someone asked him about what's going on next, or maybe it was just an offhand remark he made about something like, not sure about what is going to be next. He has to think about that or something along those lines. It may have been on Rebels Recon, and I don't think anyone bought that. But
of course not. We know him too well by now.
Yeah, but as Taxus pointed out, there's been the search for someone at Lucasfilm Animation to work on the next series, and this comment here, if anything, I'm guessing maybe they don't have exactly all the details of what the next series might be. They might know the general idea. For instance, it could be set between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. It might feature, I don't know, Ahsoka and Sabine Wren going to the unknown regions. Well, who else is going to be there? Who else is going to be on Ahsoka's ship? And what's the other part of the story? What's the first season going to be about? That would be maybe the type of details in my hypothetical that I could see possibly be missing at this point. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that there's already something in the works and that we're going to be seeing a new animated series later this year. I doubt it, but knock on wood that it just with the break that we're going to have from after Solo comes out in May, and then we're not getting. Boy, this sounds spoiled these days. Not getting episode 9 until December 2019.
Wow.
That's as long a break as we've had without, Star Wars, a series or anything. So, it'd be nice if we got something this fall. What
if the series, okay, so they roll out the new series and they don't tell us a single thing about it. In episode 1, it's not what we think with Ahsoka and Sabine, but it's Ezra and Thrawn. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be such a weird brain
the Ezra
twist?
The Sabine and Ahsoka thing was just a hypothetical anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that's what the next series would be anyway. Anyway, yeah, we could speculate all evening on what a new series would be and put out our wish lists and things like that. But that's a discussion for another time. So, we have a few other quick hits we wanted to get out there before we conclude the news. If you like collecting Star Wars music, the original 6 Star Wars soundtracks are being remastered. Disney Music Group announced that May 4th, Star Wars Day, will see the re-release of John Williams' original 6 Star Wars soundtracks on CD. Each CD will have a new cover and artwork and will also include a collectible mini poster. So that's fantastic. I don't think I'm gonna get these. I don't know about you all, but I've bought this music multiple times in my life, and now I'm exclusively listening into it through either Spotify or iTunes. So.
Right.
I don't, if I didn't have it, or maybe if I was super concerned about the quality, I'd go into that. But
here's my money. Do you know? Right. Okay, so do you know who owned? If I remember correctly from Star Wars Oxygen, I'm kind of thinking that the reason they're doing this is because I think Sony still owned the rights to the first 6 movie soundtracks, or something like that, and that
no idea.
Maybe Disney's acquired them, and that's why they're re-releasing this. I don't know. Just throwing that out there because it's kind of weird that they do it on CD, especially like you said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, another news: Star Wars Forces Destiny has returned. 8 new episodes premiered online on March 19th. And Jay, I think you were just on Coffee with Kenobi talking about these, weren't you?
I was indeed, yes. And they're all really good, very short. There's one that's only 1 minute and 32 seconds long. Some are a little bit better than others, as far as adding more to the overall story arc. But yeah, there's a couple of really great reveals in there. So I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody. But if you want a few really quick hits of Star Wars, then, that's definitely the place to be, is right on YouTube. Find them there.
All right. Well, Rian Johnson and his writing partner partner, Ram Bergman, indicated during the 2018 Rakuten TV Empire Awards that we just talked about that work on Johnson's new Star Wars trilogy has begun. With that said, it's just in its very early stages and no other details were released. So again, take that for what it's worth, that they've started working on it, but I think there's less than very scant few details for them to tell us about. So just know it's being worked on. And finally, the international versions of the solo posters have arrived. Although they use similar imagery to the US posters, they mimic the mimicry of the French album covers that we discussed on episode 50 has been abandoned. And these are just character posters against a colored background. So...
Yep. Or as I like to call them, freedom posters.
Yes, right. But I think the part of that may have had nothing to do with this copyright infringement, in that some of these foreign language markets wouldn't be using the English characters anyway. And I don't know how it would look behind, different alphabets in Asia, or if that would work, or if that's even appropriate. So there you have it. Well, that's going to do it for our look at the news. If you are looking to stay current on Star Wars news, then we would recommend you check out Courtney Martin's Weekend Geek column on RetroZap, or the websites of our friends at Fan at the Tracks, Jedi News, Coffee with Kenobi, and TheForce.net.
Hey, Robert, why should people listen to another retro gaming podcast?
Our cast, David, we do have to keep this short,
Yes, well, I guess we should start with the fact we celebrate old school video games.
And we have awesome guests and game giveaways. Don't forget that.
Plus our game show and your favorite segment, Random Select.
Don't remind me. Are we done yet?
Listen to our cast, another retro gaming podcast, part of RetroZap.com.
Finally, back to my beer.
I feel like
we're being watched.
I am wondering, why are you here?
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
Okay, Scoundrels, it's that time of year. April is right around the corner, and convention season is in full swing. And we're here to help you out. More particularly, Taxus is here to help you out. He has combed the dark reaches of the internet and found where all the Star Wars celebrities are going to be appearing next month. So, with that, Taxus, take it away. Where is everyone going to be?
Oh my gosh, this is like such a thick month. I think April and May are the best months for convention season. So, starting off, we got Indiana Comic-Con in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it's March 30th through April 1st. And we have Jim Swearingen, who was the designer for Star Wars figures with Kenner, if you remember that, way back. So, and we also have Timothy Zahn. Do I have to say anything about Timothy Zahn? I don't think so.
Just throw on a Mara Jade and you got it covered.
You got it. So after that, same weekend, Awesome Con in Washington, D.C. Charles Soule, who we all know and love for doing the Vader comics.
Poe Dameron.
And Poe Dameron, that's right. And Jeremy Bullock. And, wow, this is a pretty big one. Dennis, I don't think I've ever seen this guy show up at any conventions in the U.S. besides Star Wars Celebrations. No, not even those. John Boyega.
Yeah, he's been at Star Wars Celebration, but yeah, that's a huge get.
But like officially, I mean, like autograph-wise and everything, or just like...
Oh, no, not autographs, no, but he's been on stages. But yeah, he's got a big role at Awesome Con.
Yeah. And so that's a big get. You're right. And we got Eunice. Am I saying that right? Eunice
Suotamo.
Suotamo.
Just say Chewbacca.
Chewbacca. New Chewbacca. Nordic Chewbacca. Yes. And we got Mark Brooks, who was involved with Star Wars comics.
Yes, he was the artist for Han Solo, and he did some covers for the Kanan series.
Then we got, same weekend, Conglomeraton in Louisville, Kentucky. Chris Griffin, and she is a Star Wars collectible card game artist. Not the same weekend, actually April 3rd, at Greenlight Bookstore in Brooklyn, New York. Charles Soule is doing a special appearance there. So, go check it out and enjoy. This is a big one. C2E2, the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, April 6th through 8th, Chicago, Illinois. I would love to attend it, but I think you and I might be busy that weekend, Dennis. Just foreshadowing. We have Plano's Own, Alan Tudyk. Also, Susan Eisenberg, Vanessa Marshall. Wow, how great is that? Jorge Molina, Star Wars comics.
Related? He worked on the last flight of the Harbinger story arc in Star Wars 2025.
Yeah. All right. Then we got Katie Cook. We've mentioned before. We love her art. Mark Lamming. And Dennis, you might know what he did.
Yeah, he one of the most recent things he did is the cover for the Afra Annual, which has got that was a story about Chewbacca, but it's a pretty nice cover. So that's some of the recent work he did.
Marco Cicchetto, which is involved with Star Wars Shattered Empire comics. Mark Brooks, Star Wars Han Solo comics. And am I saying this right? It's not Rachel, it's Rochelle Rosenberg.
Right. And yeah, she's a colorist for the Star Wars comics, and she's done things like Afra and other issues.
And we love Afra. Same weekend, Silicon Valley Comic Con in San Jose, California. Hey. We got Mads Mikkelsen and Tamura Morrison, who played Django and also other clone troopers and stuff, and maybe voices for that. And related to that, Daniel Logan, who played young Boba. Also got, Ray Park and Ian McDiarmid. Wow, that's a great combo. And Gary Whitta, who also was a writer for Rogue One.
You say that just to antagonize me, don't you?
You know me by now. Also that same weekend, we got Sci-Fi on the Rock at St. John's, Newfoundland. New London. What does NL stand for again, Dennis?
Newfoundland.
Okay, good. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who was, of course, Governor Price of Rebels, and who is usually accompanying her, Dennis?
That would be Zeb himself.
Steve Bloom. That's right. Also that same weekend at Empire State Comic Con in Albany, New York, we've got Mark Dodson, who did the voices of Salacious Crumb and different voices in Episode 7. I think Cretinus. Am I getting that right?
I'm not sure who that is. From The Force Awakens?
Yeah. I think he was in Maz's castle, and he was like the one that was like laughing really hard. I don't know. From the Card Trader app, I've got his picture or something. So, also that same weekend, San Antonio Book Festival in San Antonio, Texas. We've got Claudia Ray, who is the famed author of such Star Wars books as Star's End and not Star's End.
Lost Stars. Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
Yes, and that too. Yes, indeed. Same weekend, Tupelo Titan Con in Tupelo, Mississippi, because there's no Tupelo, Kentucky. I'm just saying. David Ankrum, who is the voice of Wedge in the Star Wars A New Hope. Courtney Taylor, who did voices for Star Wars The Old Republic. Dean Zachary, who's involved with Star Wars comics, maybe with Knights of the Old Republic, I think.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw out the shout out because this is a great cause. There's a appearance by the Autistic Jedi, and basically what that is, it's an advocate cosplayer who is raising autism awareness through Star Wars cosplay. So, if you're out in that area, go ahead and support them. And if not, then Google it, find their clothing, and go ahead and order yourself a couple of things just to support the cause. Then we've got also that weekend, all the way across the pond in London, the United Kingdom, London Film Fair. We've got Brian Toby Lofthouse, who was the prop master on Return of the Jedi, I think for C-3PO. So we've got Jamie Harcourt, who was part of the camera crew, and Simon Henderson, who was a Jawa in New Hope. Joe Gibson, who was a stand-in for Mark Hamill, and also a Snow/Stormtrooper in Empire Strikes Back, and a Stormtrooper and Gamorrean Guard in Return of the Jedi. So that's cool. Those are kind of rare finds, Might point that out. Yeah, if you can get to London, do it. Especially if you're in Texas. Just saying. Hey, is something else happening that weekend? April 6th through 8th, Dennis?
Why, I think so.
Huh.
And we have a little con down here in Dallas.
Well, I think you're right. It's Fan Expo Dallas, right here in Dallas, Texas. We've got Anthony Daniels, Eunice Suatamo. Yeah. Hey, who do we have here? Billy D. Whoa! And we also have the very uncomfortably encountered Drew Struzan, but he's really awesome. Just saying, he just outwitted me in so many ways. And hey, is there something going on with our show and Fan Expo Dallas, Dennis?
We'll be there.
We will be there. We will be there in force, Little Scoundrels. And if you find me and say the secret word, there might be some fun prizes involved. Just saying. Also, that week on April 11th in New York, at the Pit Loft, well, Charles Soule, he's there again. Man, he's doing the rounds, isn't he? Back in Texas, specifically Amarillo, Texas. We've got Yellow City Comic Con, April 13th through 15th. We've got John Mortensen and Tom Kane, who did voices in the Clone Wars and Rebels. Also, did you know he does like the voices for the Disney monorails?
Yeah, he does some of the voices there, not all of them, but yeah, he's most famous for is what, Yoda from the Clone Wars.
Oh, that too. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Also, Mind the Gap, or the American equivalent in Florida. Just saying. We've got David Ankrum again and Mark Dodson again. That same weekend, Steel City Con in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Ian McDermott. So go check that out if you're in the Northeast. And next weekend, April 20th to the 22nd in Williamsburg, Virginia, we've got RavenCon, and Chuck Wendig is doing a appearance there. So same weekend, all across the pond in Wrexham, I don't even know him, United Kingdom, Wales Comic Con. We've got Mark Lewis Jones. You might know him in The Last Jedi as the short-lived Captain Kennedy. Yes. Along with him, we've got Taylor Gray, who is the potentially long-lived Ezra.
Yeah, somewhere out there.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Chilling with Thrawn, right? Same weekend, Salem, Oregon, Cherry City Comic Con, Ashley Witter, who is involved with the Dr. Aphra comics, and Michael Golden. And I think he was involved with the original Marvel Star Wars comics.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Same weekend, Tupelo Con in Belden, Mississippi, which is kind of weird. Didn't we just have another Tupelo Con a couple weeks early? Who knows? Mm-hmm. We got Felix Silla, who was an Ewok at least in Return of the Jedi. Same weekend in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, Williamsport Comic Con, appropriately. Ron Martz is a comic artist with Dark Horse Star Wars. Next weekend at Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo, April 27th to 29th in Calgary, Alberta.
Indeed.
Being Canadian. Mm-hmm. We've got a double hit with Anthony Daniels and Vanessa Marshall. Same weekend, Philadelphia Comic Con in Oaks, Pennsylvania, which, I don't know, is Oaks part of Philadelphia, Dennis?
Just because I married a Philadelphian, don't ask me.
Gotcha. We have a lot of people here this weekend, right? We've got Ian McGillany, who is General Dodonna in Rogue One. Also Jeremy Bullock, Taylor Gray, Brent Spiner, Jim Cummings, Paul Casey. Now this is a good one. He was the body, actor for Admiral Radis, Eloasti, and Cy Threnali. I think somebody else did the voice, though. Just saying. Kathy Munro, who was Zuckuss in Empire Strikes Back, and Work Kettle, the Snivian, who was seen in Empire Strikes Back in Cloud City. Angela Staines. Now, this is a good one, because she was one of the twins in the Cantina. And this is an interesting backstory, because she was Carolee de Ulan, and she was disguised as Seni Tanaka, one of the twins. There's a little deep backstory there, because she and the other girl who looked like a twin with her were part of this whole, I guess, guardian or whatever, called the Mistral Shadow Guard. That's great. Bill Hargreaves, who's the prop master creating IG-88 and the Minoc and Probe Droid in Empire Strikes Back. And we have Brian Herring, who of course is the beloved BB-8. Finally, rounding it out, in the same weekend, Universal FanCon in Baltimore, Maryland, we have Steve Bloom, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, of course, and who's left? Billy D. Whoa! Awesome, and you are up to date, Scoundrels.
Yeah, so don't forget, Scoundrels, we will be at Dallas Fan Expo April 6th through 8.
Yes.
We have not exactly figured out what our schedules are going to be yet, but we'll be around. And if you can figure out whatever Taxus' secret word is, good luck with that. But again, look for us there. We'll be around. Stop and say hi. There'll be some way of recognizing us, and we'll put it out there somehow on our Twitter feed, what that'll be. But we'll hope to meet you there, and that will do it for this month's edition of Skystalking. We'd love to hear about any of the encounters that you have with these celebrities, and if you are so lucky to meet them, get an autograph or a picture, let us know about it. And you can write us at sqpod@retrozap.com. The road to Solo continues. On this week's Hypothetical, we are looking at Han Solo's Revenge, Brian Daley's sequel to Han Solo at Star's End. With that, let's get to our summary. Jay, would you do the honors?
I would love to. Han Solo and Chewbacca are down on their luck in the corporate sector. Against his better judgment, Han accepts a job without inquiring into the details that promises a 10,000 credit payday. To his and Chewbacca's dismay, the job turns out to be hauling slaves. After subduing the slavers and freeing the slaves, Han and Chewie head to Bonadin to extract the 10,000 credits they think they are owed from whomever listed the job. They meet an auditor general for the corporate security agent Viola, who is acting undercover to track down individuals from with the CSA involved in the slavery ring. Complicating matters, Viola's assistant has gone missing. Complicating things even more, a skip tracer named Spray is hot on the Falcon's trail. He is out to repossess the ship as Han has fallen behind on payments on loans he took out against the Falcon. To resolve this situation, Han reluctantly agrees to aid Viola in her investigation, and she will post the payoff to Spray. The group is forced to split up and heads to the planet Amund. Han intercedes in a duel between a gunslinger named Galandro and a young clan leader named Morglad. Eventually, Han, Viola, Chewbacca, the droids, and Spray, reunited, figure out the plot and discover Viola's assistant Mag is behind the plot. While attempting to fight off pirates pursuing them, a CSA Victory-class destroyer finally takes out the pirates. In addition, Spray is revealed as a CSA territorial administrator named Ottoman, and Galandro is his assistant. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was a very high-level summary of this book, and we'll get into a few more details as we go. But as usual, when we're doing reviews, let's go around the table real quick and give some initial thoughts on this. Jay, what did you think?
Well, I really felt like this book was a lot of fun. You know, I wasn't really sure what I was going to get into at first, but I really feel that Brian Daley did a great job of spinning some webs here that, I wasn't quite sure where some of those threads were going to end up. And, it actually reminded me a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy in some way. Mm-hmm. And I am in love with Bollocks and Blue Max. Can I just say that? And I wish that there was still some interaction between, Han and maybe it's because he loved Bollocks and Blue Max so much that he was a little bit cold to C-3PO. It was like, who are you to take their place?
Oh, wow. But,
yeah. I don't know.
That's a good point.
I just love the whole idea of these alternate personalities and these undercover agents, and this is this person versus but this is who they really are. Spray just reminded me a lot of maybe who Rocket would have been, a little bit more subdued kind of thing.
Yeah,
a
little less fond of guns, but
So, but overall, I felt like it was a really fun book. I enjoyed it a lot.
How about you, Taxus?
Well, just like the last book, I felt like this captured the feeling of Star Wars. It had great pacing. It had all the elements. And in a weird way, in the beginning, it felt like an Indiana Jones story, where Solo's on the planet and he's, it's a little weird, but he's showing movies to the natives, right? He's trying to make a buck while they're making repairs, right? And he's showing them it's a planet that's pretty much almost devoid of water, and it's a insectoid type life, and they've been gathering, and he's thinking, great, they love the movie, wonderful. So they've been bringing him these little tokens and stuff that he's been accumulating so he can sell them later or trade for them for something better, so I love that capitalism element of it. So he ends up thinking, okay, they got to be bored of this documentary I've been showing them about this water world, so he convinces a friend of his to go find another holovid, right? And it's kind of a proper movie, almost like La La Land, you might say, you know what I mean? It's got the meet cute, I believe is the word or the phrase for that. So to where the guy meets the girl and everything. And all of a sudden these insectoids get really upset about it. And he's trying to figure out why. And, his friend explains to him, you didn't create like a theater, you created a religion. Right. Because they haven't seen all this water in any of their lives. So they think that this is heaven or something that they're trying to access. And they've been bringing tokens to the gods. And so that's why it kind of felt like Indiana Jones to me, because then he's running for his life against the natives trying to chase him down and kill him. Which makes me wonder if, I'm just saying, maybe this book, and in the timeline, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe the Bearded Trio could correct me if they're listening to this at all. Maybe in the timeline of him talking to Spielberg on the beach about the Indiana Jones movie, this Bryan Daley story wasn't in the background of his mind. I don't know, the way he wrote the character. So, but at the end...
that's an incredible bit of speculation.
Well, I don't mind speculating. I will bravely speculate, and I challenge anybody out there to say that I won't, because I will. I'm really challenging, Jay, you're right. And at the end, though, I felt like it became sort of like a Shakespearean story, Do you bite your thumb at me? You know what I mean? It was very clever how it kind of transmorphed into that whole feeling.
Well, okay. A couple things that stood out to me. One, Daley did a really great job. He did this with Stars In and now with Han Solo's Revenge. In, I think, getting Star Wars imagery right before there was any references for Star Wars imagery.
Yes.
The space station on, what was the name of that planet they went to? Bonadon?
Yes.
Where they were waiting for the contact that was supposed to set up. I could picture that thing virtually. It is perfectly in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this is great. This is a Star Wars space station. This is perfect. Kind of reminded me of what was the asteroid floating city at the beginning of Rogue One. Some of that. But there was that. Two, he does a really great job describing starship battles. He did a great job in Stars In with the corporate security authority forces fighting Han Solo and Jessa and all them and their Z-Wings. That was a great battle. There was a lot of great scenes with the Falcon in here and fighting off pirates. So that was fantastic. So he does a great job of imagery there. One of the things it just amused me to no end is that I was on a little vacation when I was reading this, and so, at times I was paying more attention to it than others, but it occurred to me that, Spray, who was revealed later to be this administrator named Ottoman, he's a giant otter.
Yeah.
I couldn't decide if he was a beaver or an otter.
I love otters.
Well, yeah, but it was just he at one point he's swimming through a pool looking for food for him and Chewbacca after they all get split up, and and he delights in finding it, and I could just picture him rolling over in this lake like an otter, like holding up the clam that he found.
Yeah.
So I found that character extremely amusing.
Yeah.
He was kind of he had his personality was fun because he was very insistent that Han was behind on this loan and that he was going to have to pay. Yeah, he was a bit squeamish. He was always willing to assert his right, so he just couldn't back it up. But anyway.
That's why he needed his hired gun that we'll talk about later. Just saying.
No, we can talk about it now.
Okay, Galandro.
Galandro. So let's talk about that part for a bit. There's... we don't have enough time to go through every element of this book point by point. But after they get to Ottoman, is that right? Amund? There's all these clans, and the heads of each one are more somebody or other. And one in particular they need to talk to is the Glads. And so Jay brought it up during the summary that he goes to visit with the Glads after the escape boat that Han and Fiola are on, it crashes into Amund. And they win his assistance because Han agrees to take this young Moor's place in this duel with Galandro.
Right. How Shakespearean is that name, right? I mean,
I was thinking like Mexican Zorro type sword fighter duelist name.
Well, that would be Gaiandro.
Yeah, well,
just saying.
That's true too. What did you all think of those scenes?
First off, I gotta say that the whole Moor thing felt Scottish to me, like the clans.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. You read my mind. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's you. Go ahead.
Okay.
I was setting you up.
That was the first. I was thinking Outlander when some of that stuff was happening. Yeah, but Galandro. It's funny that you know when you guys are talking about these characters, I had the book in one hand and then I had my phone in the other hand, looking on Wikipedia to see. Okay, I need to visually. I have an image in my head, but I need to see this. So yeah, when I saw Spray, this big old otter, that's why it reminded me of Rocket. And then Galandro with his little gold beads and his mustachios, but he does have kind of a sort of a Spanish / Mexican feel to his overall look. But yeah, there's so much that's being drawn from this that it seems like there's a little bit from all kinds of different literary type influences. So like you said, you've got the Scottish influences, and then we've got like the gunslingers, and then we've got this beautiful sci-fi, and there's just so much in Shakespearean, as you said. So you go from one to the other, and you don't know what to expect next, which I think is the beauty of this story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It really is great. I mean, here's the thing, okay? So Brian Daley had the challenge of first fleshing out Han Solo with Star's End, right? And in my opinion, he expertly handled it. Now he has the challenge of doing a sequel to his book with the same character and expanding the universe even more. And the thing that I love about it is that he took the villains in the first book with the corporate authority and turned them into heroes.
Were they really heroes, though? I mean,
well, because Fiola and Spray were. I mean, I would say that he's Spray and Prey.
There were some details that we skipped over there from the end of the book, though, that, Ottoman was going to basically have Han and Chewbacca in prison and the Falcon impounded.
Yeah, but he did something at the end to help them kind of escape, didn't he?
Oh, that was Fiola.
Fiola did something at the end to kind of help them escape, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. So, it's I kind of feel like, I see what you're saying, Taxus. In a related point that I was going to make is that I thought it was interesting that we got two very entertaining Star Wars books where the villainous organization is the corporate sector authority, kind of and kind of not in the second one. And there's no empire around. They only got scant mention in this book at all. Now, we did have the corporate sector authority somehow manage to get their hands on a Victory class Star Destroyer, but good for them. It's good to see that show up. That ship show up.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but the corporate sector authority gets some blowback because, one, they had a bunch of agents complicit in the slavery ring, and you never know who you can trust. And Fiola's whole drive was to get into a position of power inside the CSA so that she could affect change.
Yeah, and that's noble, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, she seems to be more the exception than the rule for the CSA.
Well, but then again, as we find out that Spray is actually, I guess a top-ranking CSA authority, which, on a side note, I thought was kind of a cool twist because, as we know, that the Empire, or through lore and now I think somewhat established in official canon, they had a well, of course we know through the Thrawn book, right? They had a bias against alien species, right? So how awesome was it to see the corporate sector authority allowing an alien to take such a high position of power? And he took pride in that, right? And he wanted to do right, which is why he was engaging in the activity he was and working with Solo, although Solo didn't know who he was, to try to find the slavers and especially root out the bad elements in his own organization.
Yeah, okay. I guess my take on it was a little different. Yes, he wanted to do right, but right by who? I felt like it was less a altruistic motive and more of a looking out for his employer type of a move. But he was. I didn't consider him overtly evil, but this book, I think, was a different area of space, and I didn't feel like. Slightly different people, but there was an awful lot of the CSA tied up in the slavery ring. So it's I don't know. I have a hard time calling the organization on a whole good guys in this book because there's a couple people an agent and a manager that are trying to affect change. I don't think that excuses everything. But let's hear from Jay. What do you think about this?
Well, as far as the corporate sector authority, when you guys were talking about this the last time, I hadn't really thought about the fact that when this book was written, it was right after A New Hope. So they really, who knows what kind of liberties he was able to take with mentioning, the Empire and how much he was allowed to say. So I just really thought it was a great way to incorporate sort of the bad guy corporate type thing into the whole story without necessarily directly involving the Empire. So because you kind of have to have something of that nature, you know what I mean, to be able to insert there.
A big organization.
As like a cause to fight against, or, even though Han kind of fell into it by accident with the whole slaver thing, but it definitely served its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Good point, definitely.
And I have to say that I didn't mean that the whole organization was good. I'm just saying that the people who were affiliated with the organization in the story obviously were not maniacally evil people like we saw with Commandant. What was his name? Commandant. The prison guard, the prison. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Rickson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the thing is, Galandro's still. I don't know. He didn't seem entirely on the up and up. He really seemed like a hired gun, and he was eager to test out his dueling abilities against Solo at some point.
Yeah, but he even admitted to Solo. He said, "I've gone through what you've done, and I've arrived here because of all that, and I predict you're going to do that too," which is kind of foreshadowing to, Han. What are you looking at? I know what I'm doing, right?
Sure, but still, he was ready to kill someone to prove how good a dueler, how good it is on a quick draw. So at any rate, but okay. So let me ask a opening question: does Han Solo's Revenge seem like the right title for this story?
No, not at all. That was the thing I was thinking the whole time. Okay, what revenge is he actually getting, and against who? And I was kind of lost in that. I feel like there could have been a different title.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Taxus?
I don't know. Maybe it would have been better Han Solo's Investigation. Or
Han Solo's Payday? I don't know.
Han Solo's trying to figure out who was trying to screw him over. I don't know. I love the word revenge because, he wasn't after revenge, though. You're right, Dennis. He was after payday. Right. Mm-hmm. And because I'm with you, I thought that when I was looking at the title, I was like, revenge. That doesn't really seem like something Han Solo would really look for. You know what I mean?
Well, you can have, I feel like revenge can be from a position of good or fulfillment. I'm not describing this well, but here's what with that title early on in the book, when Zlarb, the slaver, took over the Falcon with his cronies on the planet Lure, and they filled it full of slaves with their shot collars, and then Bollocks and Blue Max engineer a way of setting off the fire suppressant in the ship, which allowed Han and Chewbacca in a really cool scene to work together,
good
take out
too.
all the slavers. Really well done by Daley there. When I was reading this, okay, I see what this is. And to your earlier point, Taxus, when you mentioned an Indiana Jones story, I was thinking Temple of Doom with all the kid slaves. Movies like that. I was like, there's going to be something that is born out of this slavery ring that Han Solo is going to, seek retribution for.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought the revenge angle was going. But then it was, I took a job that promised me 10,000 credits and, darn it, it was an illegal job, and someone owes me 10,000 credits. It's just there's
more mercenary than personal.
Well, I mean, he's a smuggler by definition. He's doing a lot of illegal things. The Falcon is running around with an illegal waiver list that allows all of its armaments and modifications to get it from place to place while it's in the corporate sector authority. But then there's this, look, slavery is a whole new brand of repulsiveness. I get that. And I'm not arguing against that. It was just Jay, you said it too. I just didn't felt like revenge was the appropriate title for this book. It's short, it's sweet, but it's not, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what else I would have called it, but probably something else.
I like retribution. I like what you said there, like Han Solo and the Path of Retribution or something like that. Or Han Solo's Path of Retribution. Sorry, Taxus, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I would have called it Han Solo : Payback.
Okay. I like that too. So, Jay, what else stood out to you about the book?
Well, one big thing I feel like that Bryan Daley did so well was just how he fleshed out a lot of the characters. In this short book, I really invested myself in all of these characters.
Yes.
And just the way that he was able to describe them, and not just the characters, the new, quote unquote new ones like Spray and Fiola, that type of thing, but even the relationship between Han and Chewie. And we had talked before on our 50th episode about the life debt and what did that mean, and I feel like we got a chance to see what a true friendship they have and how they truly do work in sync, because there was that point where, even Han was saying, well, I'm going to use this. And he pointed to his temple and he said, I'm going to use this. And because Chewie, he wouldn't bank right over this, and he would do this, and he would go here, and this is where we're going to find him. And lo and behold, that's where they were. Yeah. So it's like they're so in sync that way, but yet you feel like, where's this life debt? Because at the beginning of the book, there was something that was happening, and then Chewie threw something at Han's head, and who would do that to someone that you owe a life debt to,
Yeah.
So it was like, just the banter between them. I appreciated the way that that he described when Spray met Chewie and Chewie was trying to intimidate him.
Oh, yes.
And Spray was pretty much having none of it. And it got to a point where Chewie was like, this is embarrassing,
Yeah,
So he did hold his own. Go ahead.
But at one point, Chewie actually picks Spray up and holds him face to face and shows him his fangs. And when I read that, I thought about The Force Awakens when Chewie grabs Finn by the jacket and pulls him close to his face.
I did too.
Yeah. And so,
that scene from The Force Awakens made that one that you just described so easy to envision.
Yes.
After that, let me bring up another topic real quick. We barely spent any time on her. What did you all think of Fiola?
I thought she could have been a lot, like, I can almost imagine her being the Kira to the new movie, the swoop scene, with the swoop fight or the escape or whatever you want to call it. I could completely see that being in, something to that nature in the Han Solo movie. And I almost wonder if there might be a little bit of that characterization. And, and who's to say that this book had any type of weight whatsoever? I mean, that's a lot of speculation there, but I could kind of see that. I liked her. I thought that she was very resourceful. I loved the fact that she came from that planet where their whole history was of mimes and mimics. And so I could just see her, doing some of these things and just her ability to be able to read the nonverbals of someone else and how she knew that they were waiting on that table. It was just, I just really appreciated her character.
Yeah. So, okay. This is interesting because you just made me think of something. when she escaped, she was wearing a shimmer silk, blouse or not blouse. Jay,
Dress.
what do you call it? Dress. Thank you. Thank you.
An evening gown. Must be.
Yeah, that's
precise.
what women call those things. Yes. And so when I read that she was wearing that, I immediately thought about Marion Ravenwood, and how she was wearing that same kind of white sort of slinky dress that, Beloche. Freedom Beloche. So he had what he had given her, right? And so I kind of saw like her being an amalgamation of kind of the previous damsel that got Solo's interest in the last book. You know what I mean? But she was a great character, and what I love about this book is that Bryan Daley did not spend a ton of time setting up secondary characters. You know what I mean? We didn't have to have a ton of backstory about the what's Morglade? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So, we didn't have to have a ton of backstory about any of those characters. They're in and out. Galandro, we didn't have to understand exactly, well, what did this guy go through? And why is he like this? Whatever. And it was sort of like a Star Wars movie where, for example, I'm just going to say Major, what's his name? Arhol?
Who?
Arhol. Yeah, remember the guy that hands the medals to Princess Leia at the end of...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, so he's just a passing character, but we know he's got an actual name, and fans obsess about his little storyline, right? And I feel like that's the same thing that's happened here. I mean, we see these characters come and go throughout this book, and he doesn't spend a bunch of background, time explaining, well, you have to understand, Galandro started his life out in the streets, and when he was sleeping one night, he started dreaming about his time. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, It feels like Star Wars because of that. He just throws characters in there, and they're there for a purpose at that moment. You know what I'm saying?
And they're memorable. That's the thing. They're memorable.
Yes.
Just like, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because there was another one that his friend that they ran into in passing, that Roa, that he said, oh, so glad that you're out of this, and they were talking about some of the people that had died, and, oh, this person did this and they died this way, or this is what happened. They're serving a life sentence, And he says, oh yeah, so glad you got out of that. And, good luck to you, Solo. And then he starts to walk off, and the wife knows better. She looks at him and goes, you're not out of the game. I mean, that was so memorable.
That was a Lady Taxus moment, I might add, by the way.
Well, we women, we have intuition.
Yeah.
But it was just a fun little part that, you got to get a little bit more personality, and you got to understand maybe a little bit more of what Han has been through and what some of his friends have been through in the business, and how harsh he really is. I mean, it's not a game.
No.
And so it's just, I just really appreciated that a lot.
That was a wonderful element. You're right.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about Phil is that she kind of reminded me of Princess Leia. She was only ever in distress simply because of being outnumbered. But she had the same go get 'em attitude that she saw an injustice in the corporate sector authority, which essentially ran a big chunk of the galaxy, and she decided she was going to do something about it. And she was happy. She didn't hide behind anybody, and so she took the fight to the enemy, and so I liked her for that. But as much as she reminded me of Princess Leia, she still had her own personality.
Yeah.
Jay, you alluded to her mimicry abilities that her people, had adopted when they weren't able to verbally communicate with each other. They had to learn how to make facial expressions and things. And, her imitating Han from time to time was a lot of fun. And
the swagger. And he's like, I recognized himself immediately. He's like, oh yeah, that's me.
What was Carrie Fisher's last autobiography he wrote, the Princess Diarist?
Yes.
And there was a bit in that book where she was talking about how she mimicked Harrison Ford.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so this is when I read this part, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think of that. Good call.
Man.
Thanks. But that's
some deep cuts. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, what can I say? but I don't know. Like I said, that just I really like this character, and I don't know if she ever showed up in anything else. I'd love to see her in in another book at some point. They bring characters back all the time now, and into the new canon. So this would be a fun one to bring back.
It makes me excited to see when I go back and read these books. I'm thinking, man, there's some actual really cool stories that you could tell about this. And it makes me even more excited about the future upcoming movie. You know what I mean? Not that they're going to do a trilogy on the whole thing and work all these characters in, but I think if they could capture the same elements, and it makes me wonder if maybe, somebody hasn't gone back and reread these books to try to capture those elements. And that's why I'm really happy that we're talking about these stories, because it'd be wonderful if there were those that translated onto the big screen. It just makes me excited to see that all. So, I don't know. Yeah. I'm rambling. I'm sorry.
No, that was a good final thought. Jay, you have one you want to offer real quick before we tie this up?
Oh, sure. One other thing, too, as far as fleshing out different personalities, was the Falcon's personality itself, and just all of the different, special modifications and things that have been gone through, as far as the things that he had gotten at Star's End, and then now with the fluidics being replaced with this and that and the other. So it makes sense more and more and more now, even though this book it's obviously not canon, but you can understand why and how this freighter has gone through all of these different modifications.
Yes.
And even Spray saying things like, well, this has these systems and these systems, and I've never seen anything like this. And so, Bollocks was and Blue Max was taking him back and saying, well, maybe we can make sense of this together.
Okay.
So it's just, the Falcon has its own personality, and I think that's probably why it's been so revered and just so iconic in the Star Wars universe as a ship that's not just a ship, but it's a character.
Yes.
I love it.
And Dennis, before you say anything, may I offer this, because I've been thinking about this. You remember in The Empire Strikes Back where C-3PO is complaining because he does not understand the computer, right?
Oh, right?
Yeah. And I remember from the same source books that we get the Victory-class Star Destroyer, and we also get the Z-95 Headhunters and everything, that the Millennium Falcon's computer was composed of 3 droid brains. And and last time I was reading this, I thought, oh, wait, what if Bollocks and Blue Max are 2 of the 3 droid brains that eventually end up being part of the Millennium Falcon? And I haven't read the last book yet, and I've never read it, but I'm just saying, I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen.
I thought the Millennium Falcon already had the 3 droid brains that it was cobbled together with, but I may have misremembered that from a prior passage. But I like the thought. That would be I hate to see Bollocks and Blue Max go out like that, but
it'd be cool if they survived like that, I mean, sure. Just saying.
All right. Well, that will do it then for our discussion of Han Solo's inappropriately titled Revenge. Scoundrels, we'd love to know what you think about this, so drop us an email at sqpod@retrozap.com.
The kids of the 70s and 80s are all grown up, but the good times of childhood don't have to end.
Our generation can share the fun and fandom of our youth with the next generation and bring the past into the future.
And wrap it all up to make a fantastic present.
Join Jedi Schwa and Chef's Bazaar every Monday morning to get your work week started by reminiscing about the past and exploring the future with your earbuds on Techno Retro Dads.
So find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, or on RetroZap.com. Part of the RetroZap Network.
It's time for...
Silence, fools!
Riveting. Okay, so on episode 50, we were talking about sidekicks, and for our Twitter poll for this episode, we asked the following. Which Star Wars character that isn't Lando, Chewie, or a Jedi would you want as a sidekick if you are a smuggler in the Star Wars galaxy? And this was fun. Jay, you nominated Hondo. Taxus, you nominated Sabine. And I nominated Zeb. We got 62 votes. Taxus, you worked really hard at stuffing the ballot box.
Okay, wait a minute. Before you say anything else, might I just say this one thing?
Revenge!
Revenge for what?
for losing.
Is this another incident where, just like Brian Daley's novel, revenge is not accurately being applied?
Well, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. Hey, wait a minute. But go ahead, Dennis. You go ahead and reveal to the scoundrels.
I will do that. So we had 62 votes. Coming in, well, last place was other, and we'll get to some of the
foolish
there.
Other.
But that was 12% of the vote was for other, and we'll get to some of those comments here in a second. Coming in third place was my suggestion of Zeb with 15% of the vote. Coming in second was Jay's nomination of Hondo with 26%.
That one. Yeah.
And Sabine received 47%. So
well, wait a minute. Who suggested Sabine?
You just cut me off there, sir. As I was going to say, Sabine, which you nominated, Taxus.
Sweet revenge.
All right. Well, we're going to have to work on your vocabulary at some point. But that was a good suggestion. It was very popular. Some of the comments we received, which I had requested if you were going to vote other to leave there, our ever reliable friend, Ryder Waldron, went with, said, I'm going with R2D2. He's brave, resourceful, and loyal. Hard to argue with that. Yep. Loyal listener, Rezakai. And I really like this one. He nominated Dr. Aphra. And he says, Dr. Aphra, of course. She's the Dr. Jones of the galaxy and knows the best places to move hot merchandise. And inappropriate comment about taverns and Tui like dancing girls omitted with style.
Yeah, but I feel like I'd be her sidekick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be. Aphra's only been sidekick to like one person, Darth Vader. And beyond that, she's been a reluctant servant or she's running the show. So,
indeed.
Then Scataganga chimed in with Lobot because he's half computer. Imagine the Uber hacking he could do. Slipping past security would be no problem at all. Plus, as an introvert, I wouldn't have to worry about useless conversations filled with irritating small talk. Well, some of the other suggestions we had, Comp My Pod nominated Cassian Andor. And then, not to be outdone, the character collector suggested K2SO.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Fellow Retro Zapper Courtney Martin offered her support for Sabine with a comment, Sabine for the win. She's smart and feisty. Darth Pundit seconded the Hondo nomination.
Hey.
And then we had Cass who said it's Jason because I want an adorable sidekick.
Well, you've only seen him when he's a child. You don't know how he'll look when I grow up.
Right. And then our last comment was from the Dark Moose, who's enjoyed these Twitter polls. And he says if there's a Mando available, I'm with them. Okay.
Good choice.
So that does it for that poll. That was fun. Thank you for everyone who voted and left us comments. For our next episode, here's our new comment, our new Twitter poll. We just learned about Kylo Ren, the White Tiger. And so that's going to inspire this Twitter's poll question. What character name from Star Wars makes the best pet name for a dog? Jay, ladies first. What would you like to nominate?
Well, hey, thank you. You know, when I'm thinking about pet names, I always think, okay, it has to be 2 syllables because when you're calling them in from outside, you have to have, you know, those 2 syllables and it has to end in a vowel. So I decided on Kylo because when you're calling them Kylo, and it's just so cute, you know, come here, Kai, come here. Come on, Kylo. Come on, baby.
Yeah, it does have the advantage that you can shorten it to a 1-syllable nickname. So there's that.
Exactly. So I'm going to go with Kylo.
Taxus, who are you going to nominate and then stuff the ballot box for?
Well, as the Scoundrels might know, that we in the Taxus household adopted a blind puppy. Although I suggested his name be Kanan, my daughter, being cut from the same cloth I am, said, I say, nay, silly father. I shall name him something completely different and not befitting the fact that he's a blind puppy. So, I'm going to say Kanan would be a good name. However, I'm going to go for the popular vote and go for Leia.
Leia. Okay. I'm going to go with Finn for my nomination. Why? Because he spent a lot of time making puppy dog guys at Ray. I don't know. That good friendly name.
I like it.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So we will put that up. I'm going to try. I'm not going to make any promises on getting this poll up earlier and leaving it out there for longer so that more people can vote. But that was a great turnout last week, and I'm anxious to see what all the Scoundrels vote for and nominate themselves for this week. So be looking for that. And that will do it for this edition of Silence Fools. We just keep on trucking down the road to Solo. But before we go, do either of you have anything coming up for the Scoundrels to look forward to?
Well, you can truck on over to Coffee with Kenobi for me. I've been kind of busy over there lately with a special edition of Forces of Destiny. And then I also have an episode of Legends Library with Randy Theriot coming up. And we're going to be talking about wishful drinking. And I also contributed to the final Rebels reactions as well. So there's a lot going on there. And I do have a few reviews coming up for my Core Worlds Couture blog. So I have one for a new pair of Pozu shoes. I will have a Loungefly, and I will also have a Muster brand coming up. So look for those in the near future. And one other thing that I wanted to throw out there for our listeners, if anybody knows a person or an entity, a fan organization, basically anyone involved with Star Wars fandom that does patches, I'm trying to put together, and I started right before Christmas, but with The Last Jedi and everything else and the holidays and yada, 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 kind of got put on the back burner. So I'm collecting patches, and what I want to do is I want to sew them onto either like a tote bag or a jacket or something like that as kind of like a mobile shout out kind of thing. So I'd be sort of a walking billboard. But not only that, but I'm going to feature each one of those fan organizations in a little spotlight in a future Core Worlds Couture blog entry on Coffee with Kenobi. So it's kind of a fun way to share the love with people in the fandom and to give them an opportunity to, get themselves out there and that type of thing. And also just, to have a lot of fun with it. So if anyone would like to participate, or if anyone knows of any fan entities, so far I've got like 5 or 6 of them from different fan organizations and that type of thing. So I've got Prophecy Girl, Collector's Hut, a few other ones as well. Saber Guild is another one that sent some patches. So I really want to do this, and I'm hoping that you guys can all help me out.
Well, for me, we have the Geek Supreme over in the Assembly Geeks Network, where I am with Scott Murray, who was heard in the last episode, and Jeff McGee and Regina Davis, talking about all things geekdom in a fun game show style way. And if you'd like to check that out, that usually drops every Tuesday. We've had a couple of minor communication disruptions and schedule disruptions, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with Easter coming up, but other than that, you should check it out every Tuesday on the Assembly Geeks Network.
I have some more recent comic reviews on RetroZap, including Darth Vader number 13, which is highly recommended, and Thrawn number 2, which is a really great adaptation of the novel that was by Timothy Zahn from last year. You can find all my reviews under the comic commentary section on RetroZap. I also have some blogging going on, Coffee with Kenobi, and I've just started a 3-part series looking about how evil is portrayed in the various trilogies of the Star Wars saga. So it's been an interesting exploration as I've written that. So you can, the first one dropped last week as of the time that this is released. And then you can also find me on Work Trails, the Star Trek Discovery podcast that I co-host with my wife, Beth. That is an exclusive podcast to the RetroZap podcast feed, which you can find on your favorite podcatcher under RetroZap, or head over to retrozap.com. Scoundrels, thank you for listening and for your support. If you have enjoyed the show, this has been Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and we would love a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, especially iTunes, which by now you should know is also known as Apple Podcasts. And also remember, you can write a podcast review directly from Apple's podcast app now, and those reviews help get the show promoted the most. So if you're going to leave one anywhere, that would be great, but we won't say no to wherever you want to do it. It is easier than ever to leave a review there. But on the other hand, if you didn't care for this, then please don't send a giant space otter after Taxus to repossess the Assessor Collector. Especially with the fire problems. With that in mind, we do appreciate it anytime you share our show posts on Twitter and Facebook. Please let others know that you are listening by sharing the show on social media. A special thanks to everyone that has taken the time to share our show with others on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and wherever else that you may decide to talk about it.
And I just want to send a special shout out and thanks to Roku Depot for making episode 50 their pick of the week. So if you have not checked that one out yet, our golden episode, you might want to do that. And I also found us on Podbean, which is my new favorite podcatcher. So if you haven't checked out Podbean yet, I really, really enjoy that one. And you can leave reviews there for us as well. It's a really easy app that you can use to listen to us anytime, anywhere, which is great. So other social media. Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at SCubedPod and liked on Facebook, where we are facebook.com/SCubedPod. If you want to follow Darth Taxus on Twitter, he is at Darth Taxus. Just ignore his little ploys for his surveys. Dennis is at DJKBER2, and I am at Joyce Krebs. Blech. You can reach us by email at scubedpod@retrozap.com. We would love to hear your thoughts on Han Solo's Revenge, but if you have anything else that is on your mind, Star Wars related or not, then let us know. Emails, really good tweets, and iTunes reviews end up in Silence Fools. Again, our email address is scubedpod@retrozap.com.
We are honored to be part of the retrozap.com podcast network. Did you know that RetroZap is home to 21 podcasts? I mean, that is more than the levels of revenge that Han Solo laid out on somebody that we read in the book. Slavers. Oh, yes. Please check out RetroZap for other great shows, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Case Files, The Deucecast Movie Show, which is a great general movie podcast, Kanata's Castle, Talking Apes TV, and the aforementioned Warp Trails. Also be sure to check out our Scoundrels t-shirts on TeePublic. Just go to tpublic.com/users/scubedpod or just search for us on the site. Want to get back at that mean boss you once had? Send them a shirt and watch their confusion from the weird hidden cameras you put out so you could watch them. Stuff from the distance.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks to Aaron Lay for our show logos and to James Volpe, the Sky Geek, for our The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly show logo.
So here is our disclaimer. Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels is not endorsed, affiliated with, or sponsored by Lucasfilm Limited and or Disney. This show is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All characters, music, and sounds are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. All else is the intellectual property of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels unless otherwise indicated.
It's that time. Any final thoughts, guys?
Maybe you should just forgive everyone on your list. It can't be healthy.
Yeah, like the good book says, I should prey on my enemies.
I think that's pray for your enemies.
Tomato, tomato.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to do it for episode 51 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Thanks for listening and joining us this week, and until next time, may the Force be with you.
Wait, you don't know everything. Not gold alone brought me hither.
Be done with your riddles. What else brought you, Lake Man?
Revenge!